Warning. The content of this video involves controversial Highlander discussions. If you feel urges to assault your keyboard and or my DMs, please hesitate and consider not doing so, as this is just my educated opinion. Thank you. So, you probably read the title. This is not going to be a fun video, because I know a lot of you have very strong opinions one way or another. I would say that if you disagree with me, much like the warning earlier said, if it's strong and aggressive, to please hesitate. If you have a differing opinion about it, feel free to comment down below. Just don't make a war zone out of my comment section, because I'll be very upset. Alright, let's get into it. Highlander lights. Man, is this a weird topic. The main point I'm going to make today is Highlander does need these types of lights. And if you don't, if you immediately feel anger, this is not going to be a good video for you. I recommend clicking away. It's not going to be a good time. So, Highlander, since his release, has not been able to fight up close. Big problem. When everybody in the roster can fight up close, can open up close, has some sort of mix-up that doesn't require them to move out of distance and come back in, that's a flaw. And it only recently got changed. Now, this has sparked a whole bunch of anger. I've seen the Reddits, I've seen the Facebook, I have seen all of the Discord. And, oh my god, there's a lot of hate for it. And I'm going to break this off into two bits. One, some people, there's a lot of hate that's justified. Some people are saying, well, the animation's janky. And for anyone who says the animation is janky and I don't like it, that's cool. That's perfectly fine. The animation is super janky. They should smooth it out so it's, I don't know, looks normal. So all those people, yeah, no, you have a valid reason to not like it, and that's fine. And the next part has two parts. The other side of this coin has two different sides to it. If you look at Highlander lights and you're like, it's called defensive form for a reason, you all are wrong. And I don't know how to tell you that otherwise. I don't know how to tell you that your opinion is wrong. It doesn't matter what they call that form. They could just call it not offensive form. The point is that that form has to be viable for a bunch of reasons. One, if it's not viable, we end up with what we had the last 3 years, which is you have to turtle with Highlander until you get a moment to get away and get into your actual fighting form and come back and do a couple things. That really isn't... That's not a good system. It's highly flawed. There's a lot of problems with it. Especially in the current meta, where everybody can attack up close, but Highlander can now. I'm not going to listen to any defensive form comments. That's not a good argument. Let's not even go there. The lights are not too fast. The animation is janky, but the lights are 500 ms. I do understand the second light is hyper armor. I don't know if it needs it. I don't know. It doesn't stop it from getting parried or blocked. It's still just a normal light. Lights, not too fast. Animation is janky. Making sure that you say the correct thing for that helps further an argument. You could put an extra buffer in there to make it so they space out a little bit more, but it doesn't change the speed of them. The other thing I've seen is people say that, well, all Highlanders light spam now. And the thing I would come back with that is, who are you playing? If some heroes don't allow Highlander to do anything else. Orochi is one of those heroes. Tiandi is one of those heroes. Just as two really good examples. It doesn't matter if you get into offensive and do stuff. Those heroes can shut down offensive in its entirety, and I'm sure, and you'll see in the video of me doing just that to somebody, albeit in training ground. If you're playing a hero that doesn't allow Highlander to do anything else, then yes, he has to resort to defensive form. And that's the whole point of this video. Defensive form being viable is not a primary tool. A Highlander that goes in just doing his defensive chains is not going to get the most of the character, and it's not going to be a very viable way of doing everything. I can experience this because I can go in and start using only defensive chains and get parried to hell. He doesn't have good heavies. You could just block him and shut him down, but I get parried all the time using Highlander and trying to get my defensive forms going. Not a thing. There are, if you're newer to the game or you're put into a lower bracket, that is a different story, but you can't balance stuff based off that. If we were going to balance stuff based on that, Centurion wouldn't have been reworked. If Highlander's facing a hero that can safely negate kick to grab, which is already a big part of the kit. It's like, alright, that's done. If they have a fast zone, they can option select the heavy, which negates heavy to grab and heavy to kick. That's not good. If they have a dodge attack that completely negates Celtic Curse, cool. That Highlander's out of things to do, except for trying to bait option selects, trying to bait dodge attacks, but that's not a guarantee, and using lights, albeit offensive or defensive. There's nothing else the Highlander can do. You could turtle away for parries, but parries are harder now, especially if your opponent's mixing up attacks. That's harder. When your primary kit doesn't work, like offensive mix-ups, and your secondary kit doesn't work, albeit like Celtic Curse mix-ups, that's all you have left. That last thing, that backup plan, has to be viable. What sparked all this is I was fighting a Ref 70 Orochi, and they're a reasonable person. They weren't shitty or anything. But I couldn't do anything as a Highlander-wise, if that makes sense. I couldn't do anything in offensive because they could counter it. I couldn't do the backup mix-ups in Highlander's offensive form because they could counter it. I couldn't do Celtic Curse because you can dodge attack Celtic Curse safely, and there's nothing you can do about it. Not to mention that some people just parry it. Some people just know what to look for, and they can parry that shit. Sucks. So all that I have left in my toolkit is defensive form chains, and those have to be viable. You can't slow these down. You can't make them worse as attacks. You can lower damage, and that's fine. You can take away hyper armor, and that's debatably, like, I don't know how people feel about this. There's a push and pull to that, whatever. But you can't just slow down the lights and call it good, because then we're back to the old system where the form is shit. Like, we have to have close range offense as Highlanders. Related to that, there's always that old nightmare that Highlanders have of getting cornered by someone like Orochi or Berserker. If you get cornered by one of those heroes in the old version of Highlander, you're done. You don't get to play the game anymore. You don't get to fight because none of your attacks are good enough at close range, and you don't have anywhere to go to get into offensive. Now, if somebody gets in your face, you can fight them off of you. You can apply pressure back to them and get them out of your space so you can get back to your thing. When we look at Highlander's new lights as a whole, and people are complaining about the speed, and they're too fast, and they're too viable, and now Highlanders are too spammy, I think it's important to look at the whole context, and if you're playing a hero like Orochi, or Berserker, or Tiandi, or Jengjun, any of these heroes that can shut down offensive form entirely, shut down Celtic Curse, to remind yourself to, like, well, they can't do anything to my hero. Like, their offensive form isn't good. Like, isn't strong enough to fight my hero because I counter that. And I could spend a day losing my voice about this, but I'm not, because I want to play some games today. But I hope you're all understanding this point, this perspective, and I hope that if you didn't like the hero before, hopefully this opinion maybe will point you in the right direction. Most of you are not going to be fazed by this at all. Most of you, you're going to continue doing what you do, either agreeing or disagreeing with me. But hopefully this helps some people understand kind of where we're coming from with Highlander balancing. Fix those animations, dudes. Anyways, much love. Guard out.